Hey, I think we're working now. All right, so it's Tuesday. Good day. Sun's out. It's going to be warm today. It's all good. I love this time of year. Okay, so we are going to have our Chapter P test because we are basically done with Chapter P. We're going to have our Chapter P test. It's going to open for you tomorrow afternoon. So it's going to open Wednesday afternoon. It's going to be about 16 questions long. I think that's where I'm going to cap it, is at 16 questions long, and it's going to be a mixture of multiple choice and some fill in the blank type problems. Okay. It's going to cover all of Chapter P that we did, so it's not going to include P6 because we skipped that section. Okay? And in P7, we're not going to do any projectile motion problems. We decided against that late last week to take that topic out because it was one question on the test. And I said, nah, let's just not even do it because I'm lazy and I didn't want to write it. So there's that. So the topics that are going to be included on said test are going to be interval notation, okay? Switching to and from a number line to interval notation, from inequalities to interval notation, etc. Distance and midpoint. There will be a distance and midpoint questions on the test. Solving linear, quadratic, and absolute value equations. How you choose to solve them is totally up to you. If you choose to do graphically or algebraically, that's fine. There is no specific, you have to do it this way type of questions on the test. Okay? It's wide open for you to do it however you choose. Likewise, with the inequalities, same thing. It's going to be however you choose to solve it on your own. All of the answers will be the same. Okay? Simplifying exponents, we should know our exponent rules, and then writing linear equations in all three, standard, point slope, and slope intercept form. So you should know those three forms when you get into the test. Okay? So with that being said, today we're going to do, I think there's 6 review problems for today. Tomorrow there's a couple more review problems and more time to get some questions and clarifications cleared up for you and answered for you. And then we'll open up the test tomorrow afternoon. Okay? So here we go. So what I would like you to do now is I would like you to do these 2 problems on your own. You can do it on a piece of scratch paper, that's fine. You can do it in your notebook, that's fine. Whatever you feel like. I'm going to ask you to do those 2 problems, and then in about 2 minutes I'll start, and then we'll make sure that we got the same answers. Okay? Go for it. 50, so you're probably sitting at the square root of 50-ish, but we here in pre-calc like the square root of 50 because it's exact, but we love 5 square roots of 2 because it's simplified. Okay? So I would go with 5 square roots of 2 there. We are exact type of people. We are not 7.1 type of people for that one, okay? Where you round it off by doing it on a calculator. We're exact because that's the exact answer, 5 square roots of 2. Now, if it comes up on the test, it would come up and we would want you to put something like this in the form of a square root of b, and then the answer here would be a equals 5 and b equals 2. Okay? Would be how we have to, on the test, if this were something like that, because the answer blank part isn't allowing me to put a square root in there. So that's how that we would get around that one if something like this were to come up on a test, or on the test, not on a test, on the test. Okay? Next one, find the midpoint of the line segment with endpoints of those two. Well, so midpoint says we take 3 plus -6, and we divide that by 2, and then I take the square root of 2 plus 2, and I divide that by 2. So I take the x parts and I add them together. I take the y parts and I add them together. Okay? So then that's going to be -3 halves there, and 2 plus the square root of 2 divided by 2 is going to be that answer. I can't combine those, the 2's here, or reduce any of the 2's here, because I can't reduce into a radical. So it's just going to have to stay in the exact answer, 2 plus 2 square roots of 2. Oops, excuse me. 2 plus the square root of 2 divided by 2. I misspoke on that one. Okay. Good. Great, grand, wonderful. Okay. Loving it. Okay. So let's go on to the next one. Okay. Oops. First off, though, we've got our attendance question, so you can drop this in the chat. Or if you're watching this one on the line, on the video afterwards, you can email your grading, or actually your teacher today, not your grading teacher. Email your teacher that you're supposed to have today. If you were a pet, what pet would you be? And so this could be anything. It doesn't have to be all like dogs and cats and all that stuff. If it were up to, like my fifth grader would say he would want a dinosaur for a pet. My oldest, my 8th grader, would probably want a whale, okay, because he's all into marine biology. So yeah, so whatever you want as a pet, drop it in there, okay? Me, I'd go with a spider monkey, because I want to come at you like a spider monkey. Okay? While you're doing that, make sure that you drop those all off in the chat at some point in time too. What we'd like to do here in number 3 is I would like you to tell me which of those are linear, and then in number 4, I just want you to straight up solve it. So we'll do it like numbers 1 and 2. I'll give you a couple of minutes here to actually do these 2 problems. So linear, not linear in 3, and solve it straight up in 4. In 3a, this one is linear. Okay. If we were to graph it, it would be a line, therefore it's linear. It would also be we can also classify it as linear because we have the largest exponent on any variable is positive 1. Okay? So, therefore, it is linear. The second one, B, is not linear. It is actually quadratic. Because it has an exponent, the biggest exponent actually just has a exponent of 2. Okay? So that one is a quadratic. Okay? C is linear again. Okay? Because again, all of the exponents are positive 1. Okay? So that's another way. If we graphed it, it would be a line. Okay? If I rewrite D as 2x minus 3y to the negative 1 power equals 4, now I have an exponent not equal to positive 1, so therefore this is not linear. Okay? And it's not linear because of that negative 1 exponent. Okay? In order to be linear, all of my exponents must be positive 1. Okay? Solving number 4, the very first thing that I would do is, just because it makes it easier on me to do it, I would multiply my entire equation here by something that I can, that 2, 6, and 3 go into. So I could go 12, I could go 24, I could go 6, I could go 18. Any number that all of them go into, I'm going to multiply that into all 3 spots. So 6 times x divided by 2 is 3x. 6 times 1/6 is 1. 6 times x divided by 3 is 2x. Then I can go through and I can solve this. Negative 2x, or subtract 2x here, subtract 1 at the same time, and that gives me x here equals negative 1. Or if I would have just subtracted 3x from both sides and then divided by negative 1, I would have also gotten negative 1 equals x. Okay? But in either case, it's negative 1. Okay? Thumbs up, all good? Yes? Okay. Love it, love it. Okay. Last 2, and then we'll open the floor to questions. The last 2, we didn't really do a lot of compound inequalities like in number 5, so we wanted to get one out here right away. And then we also have an absolute value inequality, just because those are a little bit more involved, a little bit more detailed. Okay? So if I am solving a compound inequality and I want to move this 1 out of the middle, then just like with an equation, if I do it in one spot, I got to do it in every spot. So I've got to subtract 1 there, and I've got to subtract 1 on the left side. So I've got to subtract in all 3 locations in order to do that. That gives me negative 2 is less than negative 4x is less than or equal to positive 4. Now I want to get x by itself. So again, I would divide everything by negative 4. Okay. Now, when I'm dealing with an inequality, when I multiply or divide by a negative, I need to change my inequality. So my inequality flips around. Okay? So first off, let's deal with the maths. The math of negative 2 divided by negative 4, that becomes positive 1/2. My less than symbol would flip around to a greater than symbol. Negative 4 divided by 4 just gets me 1. 1 times x then is x. My less than or equal to symbol flips around to a greater than or equal to symbol. And 4 divided by negative 4 is negative 1. So I get that as an inequality, but truly that's not written correctly because I've got larger number, the positive number is on the left where the smaller number should go, and the negative number is on the right where the bigger number should go. So let's rewrite that as negative 1 is less than or equal to x is less than 1/2. And again, when I reorder them to get them in numerical order, smallest number on the left, those signs also rotate with the rotation of the numbers. Because if you think about it, this 1/2 right there is being eaten by the alligator. Okay, we'll go elementary school on it, old school elementary. The 1/2 is being eaten by the alligator. So up here, the 1/2 still needs to be eaten by the alligator. So that sign has to also rotate around so it's still pointing in the same direction. Okay? Same inequality, but now in interval notation, it would look like this. Okay? So that would be the interval notation for the same inequality. And the graph of it, the two numbers I care about are negative 1 and positive 1/2. I would have a closed circle or a closed dot at negative 1. I would have an open dot at 1/2. And I would have a handle going in between them. Okay? Next one. For an absolute value inequality, I treat it as if it were an absolute value equality, and I find my two key numbers. So I'm first going to take the inside of my absolute value, and I'm going to set it equal to the positive right side. So basically, I'm just going to write it without the absolute value. And then I'm going to take the absolute value inside, and I'm going to set it equal to the negative of the other side. And then I'm going to go through and I'm going to solve it. So here first, I would multiply everything by 4. So that's going to give me 3x minus 1 equals 4. Add 1, 3x equals 5. Divide by 3, x equals 5/3. Solving the other one, multiply both sides by 4. 3x minus 1 equals negative 4. Add 1. 3x equals negative 3. Divide by 3, x equals negative 1. Okay? So those are the two numbers that I care about. Negative 1 and 5/3. Again, I would write them in numerical order on my number line. Because my original inequality was just a less than, That's going to be open dots at both of my two key numbers. Absolute value is a distance, and I want that distance to be less than 1. So that logically tells me that I'm going into the middle there. Or what I could always do is I could always attempt to test a number in one of the 3 zones. Like, for instance, I could plug in 0 back into my original equation, and I would get absolute value of negative 1/4 is 1/4. That is less than 1, so that's got to be true. So then, therefore, I'm in that middle zone. Inequality would look like that. Interval would look like that. Okay? So those would be the 3 different possible answers for that one. Okay? With that being said, that is the last of the examples that we wanted to go over today. If anybody has any questions on the review assignment, I have the review assignment as the next few pages in the Smart Notebook, and so we can just go right over them if anybody wants to stick around. I'm going to end the video here, though, and just know that we have office hours yet this afternoon. Tomorrow, Thursday, and Friday, we have office hours all the time. Monday, again, we have office hours if you have questions before you take the test. Okay, so hold on one second. Let me pause here. Video watchers, peace out.